Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is lecture. Let's take a moment and review some of the definitions or ways that we can use this verb. The first way you may encounter the verb lecture being used can mean to deliver an educational talk to students. This is most commonly used in colleges and universities to describe what many professors do. They're sharing educational information about a particular subject or topic. Related to that first definition is the second one, to give a long, serious speech to an audience. So it doesn't just have to be to students. It could be to community members or people who are just looking to learn more about a particular topic. There can still have a sort of educational bend to it, but again, the idea is it's long, it's quite formal as well. Now, a third way you might encounter the verb lecture can mean to talk seriously and scoldingly to someone. So, this is when we think someone has maybe done something or said something inappropriate or not something we want them to repeat. So, we are going to give them a talking to make sure that does not happen again. For now, you should know that lecture is a regular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, we need to drop the E at the end because we have that pattern of vowel, consonant E. Then we'll add ing, and that forms lecturing. The past tense and the participle form of our verb can be made by just adding the letter D, since the verb already ends in an E. Now, our base verb, lecture, ends in an R sound, which is a voice sound. This means the ed ending is just going to make a D sound. We're not going to add an extra syllable when we say it. The past tense and the participle form of the verb should sound like this: lectured, lectured. Okay. Now, I do have a couple phrasal verbs you might encounter, and that is to lecture at. This can mean to give someone a stern talk that might be, its purpose might be to educate them or enlighten them. An example of this might be, their manager lectures at them, but he never leads by example. This sentence sounds kind of critical about how this person is talking to their team, kind of telling them, like, you should do it this way, but then the person does not follow that same sort of message in their own actions. A second way you might encounter the verb lecture as a phrasal verb is to lecture for. Again, it could mean to give someone a stern talk for perhaps this time a mistake or some type of failing. An example of this could be, he has lectured his children for not doing their share of chores around the house. So here, the failing is like, you're not contributing, you're not doing what we've asked you to do to kind of benefit the whole family unit. You can probably tell this lecture for is very close to that third definition of our verb. Now let's continue on and do a little verb tense practice. Today we're going to review the present perfect and the simple future. Let's start with the present perfect. We can use this verb tense to talk about completed actions that occurred at an unknown point in the past. It could have happened 5 minutes ago. It might have been 5 years ago. But someone choosing to use the present perfect is not so much focused on when it occurred, just that it has been completed. Now, a second way we can use the present perfect is to describe an action that started in the past and continues into the present. Either way, we're going to make our verb in the same way. We're going to be using a present form of have and then the participle form of our verb. Now, our verb have has two forms in the present tense, so we must pay attention to our subject. If our subject is I, you, we, or they, we'll use have and then the participle. But if our subject is he, she, or it, we'll use has and then the participle. Here's an example sentence. This professor has lectured in North America, Europe, and Asia. This is most commonly going to refer back to that first definition of our verb in terms of educating. You can probably tell that because the subject is professor. And this might be kind of like a badge of honor, right? This person has so much knowledge. People in 3 different continents have invited this person to speak and share their knowledge or maybe their research, what have you. Now, if you want to make a negative present perfect sentence, what you need to do is start with your subject, use either has not and then the participle or have not and then the participle. Here's another example. We haven't lectured him on proper customer service yet. So maybe this is a manager talking about a new employee who's maybe making some mistakes and may need a little guidance on what the proper way to interact is. Finally, if you want to make a yes or no question in the present perfect, start with either have or has, whatever form matches your subject. That subject comes next, then use the participle form of the verb. Here's another example. Have you lectured at a symposium? So you might imagine various teachers, professors kind of talking to one another, asking about, has that experience occurred? Now, let's move on and make some sentences in the simple future. Today, we're going to make sentences with be going to. Be going to is most commonly used as people discuss their plans, but it could also be used with predictions or offers. Because we're using be going to here, we're going to have to pay attention to our subject. That is due to the fact we'll be using a present form of be, and we have 3 forms of that in the present. So if your subject is I, then you'll use am, going to, and then our base verb. But if our subject is you, we, or they, use are, A-R-E, going to, and the base verb. Finally, if your subject is he, she, or it, use is going to, and then the base verb. An example of this might be, the judge is going to lecture you. This was something I actually saw in, I think it was a movie recently, where an attorney was trying to prepare their client, somebody who had been charged with a particular crime and convicted. They were getting ready for sentencing and kind of trying to talk and prepare that person for that experience. So this person was discussing something I think they felt like would certainly be a plan here. So this is going to happen. Now, let's talk about making negative simple future sentences. Again, pay attention to your subject. Use the form of be that matches, followed by not, then going to, and then the base verb. Here's another example. The teacher isn't going to lecture for the entire class period. You're going to do hands-on activities with your classmates. So again, this might be discussing plans. Now, I know in a lot of cultures and different programs, it is really common that there's someone just sharing constant information on a particular subject. More and more people are sort of moving away from that and trying to learn through other means. And that's what our negative example here is getting at. Finally, let's talk about making a yes or no question with be going to. To do this, we start with the form of be, whatever form matches our subject. That subject comes next, followed by going to, and then the base verb. Here's another example. Are you going to lecture me about acceptable language? So, this sentence could be read a few different ways. I read it sort of neutral there, where someone is just asking another person about their plans. But if we put a little emphasis, are you going to lecture me about acceptable language? Kind of suggests that this person maybe isn't always using it. And so, like, how dare you try and correct me or reprimand me for not doing it? So keep that in mind. Always listen for that stress because it can alter meanings. But let's take a moment now and review a few words that are related to our verb lecture. And the first word we're going to discuss is just the noun form of this word. The noun lecture has the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation. Most commonly, when we use this word as a noun, we're talking about an educational talk that is given to an audience. And most commonly, again, it's going to be students in college or at university. An example of this might be, we attended a lecture on Greek and Roman classics. So one is saying they attended an educational talk. Another word you might encounter is the noun lecturer. This is a person who gives lectures, as it might sound like, and most commonly it's referring to someone's profession of doing that. So an example of this in a sentence could be, the university will host 5 lecturers from several disciplines in December. This might be sort of 5 featured speakers who will be talking on various topics in order to educate or enlighten people in a variety of areas. Now, a second way you might encounter this as a noun is as a job title. So it refers to someone who is a member of a college or university faculty, but most commonly, someone with this status does not have tenure. Or you might think of kind of like ranks, right? Might see full professor, assistant professor, full professor, associate professor, assistant professor, and then lecturer here. So different universities and colleges may use this title in slightly different ways. They're still extremely valuable members of college communities or university communities. So you might hear it used to describe someone in this way. She's been a lecturer since 2015. So really referring to her title or rank as a faculty member. Now, the last noun we'll discuss today is a lecture hall. It is a particular room or space for lectures, and generally it's going to have tiered seating. So it's not all one level, and it's usually able to accommodate many more people than what others think of as kind of a typical classroom. So an example of this might be, the lecture hall was completely full an hour before the event was scheduled to begin. So there must be someone really important or really interesting speaking that has filled this particular space so far in advance of their scheduled talk. Well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.